Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Stryftek and welcome to Is It Worth Your Time? The show where we give you raw gameplay along with an analysis of the game's story, graphics, gameplay, and sound. My ultimate goal is helping you decide if this is worth your most precious resource of all, time. On trial today, Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Developed by Sandfall Interactive, a French studio made up of about 30 people. Clair Obscur is a turn-based RPG that mixes in real-time elements to breathe in new life to this dated genre. And honestly, it elevates this turn-based combat to a level I've never seen before. And I'm worried about any other turn-based game I may play in the future. I've been meaning to play the Persona series or even Metaphor, but they might be ruined for me now. But there's been a lot of hype around this game as of late, and I know that even in the best scenarios, hype can ruin your experience. So my goal here isn't to feed into that hype, I just want to give you an honest opinion. So let's dive in. 67 years ago, the world was shattered in an event known as the Fracture. Your hometown of Lumiere was broken off and cast into the middle of the ocean. Survivors rebuilt what they could, only to face a new threat, the Paintress. Once a year, the Paintress wakes and paints upon her monolith, paints her cursed number, and everyone of that age turns to smoke and fades away. Year by year, that number ticks down, and more of us are erased. Tomorrow she'll wake and paint 33, and tomorrow we depart on our final mission, destroy the Paintress so she can never paint death again. We are Expedition 33. The cycle of death became known as the Gamage, or erasing, an inevitable moment of death. And as that number ticks down, eventually no one will be left. You play as members of Expedition 33, shortly after the cursed number is painted. The Gamage takes place and your team sets off with renewed purpose to exterminate the Paintress. But upon landing on shore, you're greeted by a man, an old man, with incredible power who begins to attack everyone.
You're old. How did you survive the Gamage? Which expedition are you from?
You awake alone and confused, trying to find your team to finish the mission. And all of that is just the first hour. From here, you go off to explore hauntingly beautiful worlds, find new friends and foes, and slowly unravel the past. You'll find journals from previous expeditions to help piece together this story. A story I'm not gonna ruin for you. Sandfall Interactive has done an incredible job building a world and a narrative that fully immerses you. And it's also brilliantly paced, never too slow, never revealing too much, and always leaving you wanting more. Turn-based games aren't new, and there hasn't been a shakeup in the turn-based world in quite a while. Sandfall knew the genre needed a shakeup, and they delivered. And they knew they needed to show you fast, so within the first 3 minutes you're thrown into a mock battle to see these systems. To the typical turn-based style, they added the ability to parry and dodge enemy attacks, thus negating the damage. And as you progress, you'll have to jump over other attacks or block them in other ways. Now before you think, easy mode, I dodge, parry, and I never get hit. No, you will get hit. You'll notice in combat you have some mini quick time events when you use a skill. And don't worry, these aren't the QTEs we all hate, these are very generous. It helps keep you engaged with the combat, though it does sometimes block the view of the really cool skills going on. Along with this, you're introduced to the first expeditioner, Gustav. His attacks charge his mechanical arm, which then can be unleashed in an insane attack against the enemies. And that's sort of his gimmick. Later you're introduced to other members of Expedition 33, and they all have their own thing. And for the most part, each member could fill any role in your party. There are some that gravitate a little bit better to a support role, but that's not required, especially because of how the gearing system works. Weapons have 3 passive abilities that can drastically change how you play your character, from giving extra hits to always burning on criticals to so much more. Then you can equip 3 Pictos, and honestly think of these like pieces of armor. They come with stats like health, defense, and crit, but also a passive ability. Once you battle 4 times with that Picto, the passive is then unlocked for the rest of your team to use. So early game you'll often be cycling through these to get all the passives unlocked for all your other characters, but later on you'll specifically basically be equipping Pictos you've already learned for their stats alone. So these unlocked passives are called Lumina. Each character has a certain amount of Lumina that's increased by items and leveling, and all you do with this is equip the passives that fit your build best. And then the last system I mentioned briefly is a skill tree. Each character has their own individual skill tree, and then a stats system. You assign stats to give yourself more health, more speed, so on and so forth. These systems work together so very well, and the amount of flexibility you get out of this is insane. Let me give you a little bit of a crazy example. You could equip one character with auto death. That means when combat starts, they die right away. And while that seems like a bad idea, there's actually a lot of synergy with some of the other passives. You equip things like burn enemies on death, shield allies on death, break on death, and so many more. So right before the fight starts, the enemies are burned, broken, and your whole team is buffed and ready to go. And then you just throw a resurrect on the guy who died, or find an auto resurrect Picto. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. But there is one problem with all of this. You can't save your builds. So let's say you just got a new weapon or a new passive that changes your character from a fighter to instead a shooter. You have to completely redo all the Pictos and Luminas on that character, set it up, and try it out. And then when you find out, oh, this doesn't work as well as I hoped, or I just don't really like it, you gotta go back and redo it all again. What I wouldn't give for a simple Lumina build loadout, that would make this so perfect. Oh, and the last thing I forgot to mention in all of this is you can respec your skills and your stats basically whenever you want. There is a currency you have to use to be able to do it, but it is very abundant, so don't worry about it. Now, beside the combat systems, there is one other thing, and that's the exploration. Now, you'll already be exploring because the game just looks amazing and you want to see everything, but at the same time, you're going to be constantly rewarded for exploring every nook and cranny the map has to offer. But I will give you one word of caution with exploration. Near the end of the game, and you'll know when you're there, don't delay that final boss fight. Exploring around and killing a bunch of stuff can get you very overpowered. What you don't want to do is get to the final boss and then just one-shot them. Part of the core experience of this is the intensity of the fights and the struggle, and going in and one-shotting him just sort of robs you of that very valuable and poignant moment. So yeah, go to the end boss as early as you can, fight them, and then when you reload your game, you'll be at the save point just before that. Then go out, do all the other quests, all the side quests, find the super secret hidden boss, all that stuff. Then you can come back to the boss again and one-shot him and pick the other ending. And then after that, it's just New Game Plus. This game looks phenomenal, and it was only made by 30 people. For such a small team, you'd expect a singular aesthetic or motif, but what we get here is varied and unique. Snowy mountains, creepy caves, lush forests, underwater wonderlands, all distinct and beautifully rendered. And what's even more impressive is how well it all runs. I recently rearranged my setup and unknowingly changed a few of my settings, so I played and recorded this at far higher settings than I intended to. And I just didn't notice because how flawlessly the game ran and how gorgeous it looked. That being said, because it looked so good, I did have one gripe. The pre-rendered cutscenes. Back in the day, I remember that the pre-rendered cutscenes always looked so much better than the game itself. The Diablo games, the old Final Fantasy games. But the industry standard seems to have shifted at this point, and pre-rendered cutscenes are put at the lowest bar. So what we get are cutscenes rendered at 30 FPS and probably about 1080p. And my only guess is that they want to make it match the console experience, which is probably being played in about 30 frames in 1080p. But I would love to go back to the day when the pre-rendered cutscenes looked 10 times better than the game itself. Thankfully, in Clair Obscur, they were rare and usually packed with enough emotion that I let it slide. The voice cast they got for this game is incredible. Andy Serkis, Charlie Cox, Ben Starr, Jennifer English, and many more. All of them performed incredibly and really brought these characters to life. And then you add in the music.
Clair obscur, de nature trouvera effet. Clair obscur, des hautins tu trouveras sans aide. Oh, clair obscur, trouble.
It's just perfection. Composed by Lorien Testard, a musician they found on SoundCloud, the whole soundtrack is just a masterpiece. It captures the emotion of key moments so effortlessly and instills it into your soul, all the while traveling the entire breadth of musical composition, from delicate choir pieces to huge orchestral pieces to even roaring guitar riffs. These are songs you're going to remember long after the credits have rolled, and when you hear them again at some later date, you'll get those shivers down your spine and be flooded with the memories of this game. So, is it worth your time? Well, it's currently free on Xbox Game Pass or $50 on Steam. Yeah, $50. In a world where Nintendo and Xbox have announced the start of $80 games, this releases at $50. I finished everything this game has to offer, from the optional bosses, hitting level 99, the secret super boss, everything. And I clocked in at just under 60 hours. All that's left at this point is New Game Plus, which is so tempting, but I have other games I need to play. What Sandfall Interactive have created here is nothing short of a masterpiece and is absolutely worth your time. But remember what I said at the beginning, hype can kill even the best experiences, so go into this with a skeptical mind. Stryftek claims this is a masterpiece, but is it really? So go and play it skeptically, finish it, and then come back and tell me what you thought in the comments below. My name is Stryftek, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, by all means, feel free to click that like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Is It Worth Your Time?